Which comes first, the winning games or the mindset? I mean, you went through this once before at this program, so which came first?
The mindset. The mindset. You have to, obviously, it's like anything else. Faith is, belief without evidence. I mean, like, if you start winning, then you feel like you know how to win. And it's easier that way. It's why a lot of programs, they've won forever. When you walk in there, kids expect to win. I think for our kids, the beauty and what's been fun about this year has been that, they've had to do it the other way. They've had to believe they can win when they didn't win. They've had to believe they can win when, those last second touchdowns came in to rip their hearts out. So for us, we've just attacked the mindset. We've tried to, and I think we're in a position, we obviously have a lot of things to work. I think the biggest area that we have to really, kind of come to peace with is our offensive line.
Yeah.
We're really returning one starter in Kyle. There's going to be, there's not a tremendous amount of bodies. I mean, the good news is, like I said, there's no seniors on the offensive line, so that's the positive side. But it's just really who's going to step up at that position. So, football's great. All these other, athletes are great. Guys running around are great. But if you don't win it in the trenches, it's hard to win. So I think our offensive line is the biggest area that we have to look at and figure out, who's going to play for us. And then obviously the kicking game, going through what we went through last year. I've had so many people on, kind of on radio shows and some national radio shows say to me, they've never seen a team that only had three interceptions that they picked off and only made 3 field goals. And so we changed those 2 things alone. We changed our whole season moving forward. Yeah, I mean, we're light years as a program ahead of where we were. Our kids, we walked into the first team meeting an hour ago just to welcome everybody, and they all know what to expect. They know how we do things. Even little things like, like in the sun, breakfast is mandatory. You have to wake up every morning. It's the summertime. You still have to wake up at 6:30 in the morning and go to breakfast, and all those things that I came in and changed. Now they don't not only know to expect them, they understand why, because they see a guy like Tyler Matakevich go from 217 to 238 pounds, and you see his neck go from a size 17-inch neck to a 19-inch neck, and they recognize, number one, this is what's expected, and number two, it works. If I do these things, I'm going to hopefully look like him. So. I think that we're just light years ahead of where we are. The biggest thing that I can say is this, is anytime you have a quarterback, you have a chance. And we feel very confident that we have not only PJ, but Connor went out there and played really well at times. So we know we have Connor now that he's healthy, and we have 2 freshmen in and a couple other kids that are competing. So we feel good about that position. I'd rather feel good about that and be worried about the O-line than reverse, to be quite honest. So PJ's game will allow him to, I think, make up for some of the inexperience on the offensive line. And as they move forward, they'll mature and be pretty good to them. But the whole thing about our program, I think it's why kids like us in recruiting, is we tell them there's no agendas, man. You get here, you compete, and the coaches are here 24 hours a day to help you. Whatever we can do to help you, we will. So we're going to give them all a shot. I don't know who the great players are going to be, but that they have to step up. But I do know we have a lot of good players, and there are a lot of guys that can help us. Well, I think we have a lot of really good receivers. We have guys. I'll start with the guys that played last year. Jalen's. We kind of moved Jalen around and didn't always put him in the best position for him, but Jalen's made a lot of plays. John Christopher, he's been on SportsCenter's top 10 or, whatever plays of the day with some of the catches that he's made. So excited about those guys. And then we have some kids that sat out last year. Sam Benjamin made a diving catch at Notre Dame, broke his collarbone. Ramon DeLoach, made a one-handed catch at Notre Dame, kind of in the tight end slot position, and then he got hurt. So we sat him, and we mentioned Khalif. And then there's other guys. There's other guys that we brought in. Derek Thomas we brought in mid-year last year. He's a physical specimen. He's 6'3", 6'4", 40-inch vertical, can run 4.4. He's just got to do it with the lights coming on. And then the freshmen coming in look like they're good players as well. So we have a lot of bodies out there. We moved Shippen over in the spring, and he brings a dynamic speed threat. And Nate Hairston, those are 2 of the faster kids probably in the conference. So we have a lot of guys out there that we know can play. Now they just have to show that they can take the step, as I said, from being a good player to being a playmaker, to being an elite player, and that's what they have to show us in practice. And it kind of depends by position. It's much harder for an offensive lineman maybe to play as a true freshman than it is for a skill guy. I think the first thing is they have to try to find a way on special teams. They have to go out there and help us, in those roles and really attack those roles. They have to show us that they can learn what we're doing, right? Because football is not just a physical game; it's a cognitive game, it's a mental game. You better know what you're doing and be able to make split-second decisions. That's hard for a kid to learn this entire offense and defense in the next 3 weeks. That's difficult. So, am I going to go back to the room and play Madden or whatever video games they have out these days, or am I going to be on the phone, or am I going to go home and just study? And that comes down to who's driven like that to play early. And then the final thing is just who's mature enough physically to handle the beat. Well, it's you can talk about the other things. It's almost you put the system in, you teach it. Now we're spending 30 minutes every night talking about the situations of football, teaching them 2 minute, teaching them 4 minute, teaching them coming out, teaching them short, the nuances of short yardage. So just from a mental standpoint, you're way ahead. And the biggest thing is, football's a game where there's so much information that you have to process. The playbooks are so big. So you have to learn it, and then you have to be able to respond quickly. And so if you're thinking about what to do, you can never respond to what you're seeing. And so most of our kids now have been in the system for a year and a half, and they kind of know what they're doing, and now they can just start to focus on what they're seeing. And that's I think about Geno Smith, at the Jets, the quarterback as a rookie, that led the league in interceptions or whatever he did. He'll be better his second year, and that's the way I look at our whole team. Right? I don't talk about that with the team. I can tell you, because. It's like anything else in life. I tell them the story, like when they're this locker room, they're building this locker room. Like the guy didn't lay like 2 bricks and then walk back and look at the wall, then go lay 2 more bricks and then go back and look at the wall. He just kept he laid the bricks and eventually the wall built itself. So we try to get them to focus on what's ahead of them, but I also want to have high expectations too. So does this make sense? And as I told them, and I believe this, there's not a team on this schedule that we cannot beat, but there's not a team on this schedule that we can't lose to as well. And that's like life in the NFL. That's life in a good conference. And so they learned that last year. One of the best things I think ever happened to us was losing to Fordham, because they learned right then and there, any team can beat you if you're not prepared and ready to go. So, I want to have high expectations. I want them to expect to play in the bowl game. I don't go recruit kids and tell them, hey, come here and we're going to fight to win 5 games. I tell kids, come to Temple and get a great degree in a great city with unbelievable facilities and great people on this campus, and we're going to compete for championships and go to bowl games. And so I don't want to wait. I want to start now. I hope they do too.